And if you ask me, I'm starting the recording now. If you ask me,
Wonderful.
I
Thanks.
actually have anxiety too. If I'm going to take a test, all as much as I talk about strategy, I'm going to be nervous. That's human nature. Anybody will feel that way. Okay, it could be your wedding, whatever it is. So I just wanted you to understand as well. Don't feel bad that you feel nervous. Don't feel bad that you sometimes think negatively. Oh, I'm going to fail. And let's go back a little bit of it, our history about the brain. Our brain is made to doubt ourselves. Is made to think negatively. The reason is it's a protective mechanism. So if we think about all the dangers that can happen with the lion and with the snake and everything, because our body still lives in the, 100 a million years ago when our body was created, we still have that mechanism. So trying to think positively, what we have right now is completely modern. It never existed. So our brain has to adapt. So today we're going to look at some tips that I would love to share. And I've done with many students already, and we've been able to find that memory techniques really help. So we're going to really focus on that part, but also I'm going to talk about some test taking strategies, not the regular ones that you see everywhere else, but some of the things that can maximize your point, just even by like one or two, because I have some students who email saying, Claire, I don't know what happened, but I failed by like 2 points. So we just want to avoid that. So today, again, we're going to have two parts. So first of all, how you can prepare before the exam and how you can prepare after the exam, during the examination. So those are going to be our two parts. With your permission, I would love to start my presentation.
Absolutely. We're excited. Thanks, Claire.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so a little bit about myself. Well, I am a hygienist. I graduated actually back in Boston. And when I did that, it really didn't feel like I had the right resources to pass the examination. I could have probably gone to, a review that you can drive to. Anybody thought about that, like driving somewhere in order to take your board examinations?
We just got news from our program director yesterday that they
Mm-hmm.
rescheduled for us, and it's going to be held at our school.
Okay.
Um, as far as the national board, though,
Yeah.
I think there are a couple centers like pretty close to us.
Okay, okay, okay. So at least, I'm sure all of your faculty members really are just doing everything they can to make this an experience that you can all have, positively. And I feel so bad, guys, for what's happening right now. It brings this level of anxiety even higher. But guys, know that everybody is here for you, like your family, your professors, myself, everybody around you are there to make sure that you get to the finish line. So we will do that together. So, as I was saying, I kind of was a student back then. Well, not too long ago, actually, I had a long career of being in education before even I did dental hygiene. So I used to work at the Children's Museum making curriculums for the little ones and the schools, for example. And then, my sister back then was a dentist to be. She was graduating dental school. And I looked at what she was studying and I thought, wow, you have so much resource. Like you have tons of things that you can choose from to study on your own without have to drive anywhere. And I thought, why can't we do that for dental hygiene? So that was the start. My sister, Dr. J, is my co-founder. And I'm not going to talk about student RDH. It's really not about student RDH today. It's just about the tips that I can share with you. If you're curious, I'm just going to invite you to go to the website directly and see the different things that we have. Okay? That said, I just want to mention that I'm going to talk a lot about the brain. Okay, why? Because this is the control center of everything that happens. Even the heart rate that you have, this is the thing that controlling it. So we're going to discover more about this. Again, nobody gave us a brain manual when we went to school or when we were born. So we're going to reverse that. And today we're going to get some of that manual. Okay. And there's some other ways that you can listen to things like that. For example, some of the podcasts that I've done at Dentistry Uncensored, that's by Howard Farron. That's Hygiene Town and Dental Town. So if you're more curious, I have some things on YouTube as well. And then here, I just want to talk about the strategy. If you see the strategy over here, this man, this male, wanted to turn into a Rihanna. You all know who Rihanna is, right? Yeah? Okay. So, the whole point is not to say makeup, that's not what I'm here to talk about. It's about a strategy. We have to understand what we're going to do to get to the end goal, because things don't just happen. It's not because you study one book and another that automatically your brain is going to compress all of that to the most beautiful summary that you can find and being able to help you pass the board examination or the school examination. We really need to bring some more strategy in here, and we're going to discover how to do that today. And let me just quickly make sure that we are still recording. Okay, we are. Okay, perfect. So the first part is what we can do before the examination, right? Preparation, think yourself as an athlete. They prepare themselves for, I don't know, 10, 20 years, well, maybe 20 years, but they prepare for a very, very long time for them to get to the finish line. And same for us. There's a lot for us to prepare. And anybody has any update of when you think the examination is going to happen? We can put it on the chat as I can see. Let's see. Anybody want to share? And this is
Miss
what.
Sasso's been talking to them about it, and they have their dent pins, but I think
Yeah.
it's in July. Is it
Okay.
about end of July?
Okay.
They haven't
Yeah.
scheduled them yet, but I think we're getting close, So,
Okay.
because their didactic classes will be done by the end of July, even though they still have a little more clinic.
Okay. So, thank you for clarifying that. And, I have just, been working with students all over the country and faculty members too. And, don't panic if it get pushed back again and again, because I've seen that happening everywhere. Okay. So don't lose hope, even if that gets pushed back. Okay. Nobody's giving up on you. It's just a little delay because, they have to seat people 6 feet apart. They can only put so many people in the same building. So it's all for your safety, for our safety as well. So, I just wanted to mention that. That said, let's talk about memory techniques because, my heart beats with memory techniques. But let's try to solve this thing together. Okay, it says, which medication causes gingival overgrowth? And you have 4 different answer choices here on the chat. Could you shout your answer? Is that A, B, C, or D? And guys, if you are wrong, if it's an incorrect answer, it's okay. We're here to learn. There's no penalty for saying things incorrectly here today in our webinar. Everything is a good answer. It's a learning process. Okay, so the answer is, in our case, A. Thank you very much, guys. You guys are awesome. Obviously, you know your pharmacology. Obviously, you know your medical conditions or oral pathology as well. So nifedipine is the correct answer. But now we're going to reverse it. Like, what can you do to memorize information like this a little easier? Because definitely we can. So let's do that together. So I want you to just imagine that you are going to the examination and we're going to try to prevent this, because this is going to happen. Or anybody experienced this already, when you go to an exam and you get so nervous and you have this massive hole in the brain and all you can think is, I think I've seen it in like the textbook. I think the professor mentioned it, but I don't remember anything about it, right? And that happens all the time. I mean, what about a patient? Like, what was the patient's name? Like, we have this massive hole in our brain. So we're going to overcome that with a very simple technique. And that technique has been, discovered thousands of years ago. So we're going to talk about this together. And this is a famous forgetting curve. So it is by Ebbinghaus, and it was from the 1895. So it was over 100 years ago already that psychologists, doctors, kind of studied the brain, and this is what they found. Okay, so if you reread this together, and I'm going to take my pen here so we can just, so after one day, what is your memory at? This is about 50%, right? Okay, after 2 days of learning, your memory is going below 40%. Okay, let's go fast forward to, let's say, 7 days. So 1 week from the point you have learned something, where are you at? This is about 10%, right? So no wonder when you go to the quiz the following week, you say, did we even learn this? Those are the things that happen all the time, right? And you can put here on the chat, your honest experience too, saying, I do that every single week, right? So this is normal though, okay? I don't want you to think that this is bad. This is normal because if you could remember everything, what you ate for breakfast, number page 3 of the textbook and the fine details about the table, we would not be able to survive. Our brain is actually, it's like this. Let me try to, so you have little components. Okay, everything that you do, everything you read, the brain's job is our intellectual abilities actually to do this, to combine those to create a new concept out of the things that we have to put together. So it's like baking or it's like cooking. So you put all the ingredients together and you make something out of it. Okay, so this is a concept of how the brain works. So it's completely normal to forget. However, it is a problem when we are going to be in our examination, right? And after, maybe, so July 17, that's about over 1 month from now. I mean, after 1 month, where are we going to be in terms of our memory retention? Are we here in a single digit? So we want to prevent that today. And you have enough time. I'm so happy to meet you today because we have enough time to overcome that, to practice the memory techniques. Any questions on this so far? And feel free to just participate on the chat or unmute yourself and communicate with me. And I really love just think about this curve because I think it's a great visual to understand really what happens in our brain. So, you can request that from me. If you have more questions, you can always email me later. So let's talk about how the brain stores information though. There are two ways you can do it. You can do it like on the left side. Anybody guilty here? Let's be honest. Anybody guilty piling things up on top of each other? I thank you. Our professor is awesome, honest here as well. And I'm guilty too. Sometimes it's just, what about your textbook? So when you read your textbook, what you are basically doing is this, piling one on top of each other. When you're reading your textbook, you're not really creating some nice space and storing properly. You're just putting it together somehow. So guess what's going to happen after that? If you want to take something like right there in the middle, well, you might not even remember what's there, you will create a whole mess trying to get that thing in the middle. So if we translate that into what's happening with our board examination or any examination with our memory is that, first of all, we see a question, and if we pile the information like we did like on this chair, we won't be able to retrieve it. We don't even know it's there. We're like, I don't know, I forgot, I don't know. Or what's going to happen is when you pull the information, everything will come together. So that's when you second guess yourself because you think, okay, answer is B, but what about this? What about that? What about that? So you're pulling everything out together. So that is the danger of putting information like that in a stacked manner without being organized. Now let's look at the right side closet, which is not my closet. The beauty of this is like things are organized. Like you see every single pair of shoes. You see every single sweater collar over here. You don't have to grab anything and worry that everything will come together. You can see and you can pick and choose what you're going to do. So I want you to just think about this concept. When you are reading a textbook, instead of doing radiology and then or pathology and stacking more things on top of each other, what if you could create some space over here? So that is actually the first technique that I want to teach you. Okay, it's maybe you have not heard about this because there's not so many people out there in the world that teaches about memory techniques and brain organization, but let's do this together. So when you think about pharmacology, for example, I want you to think about a place that can remind you of pharmacology. What would that be? Any place that reminds you of buying drugs or organizing some drugs, things like that. So, for example,
Like a Walgreens.
exactly, like a Walgreens. Okay, perfect. So let me just gonna say W, like a Walgreens. So think about just getting to Walgreens, okay? You don't even have to do more than that. This is the very beginning, but give yourself some context. Let's go for, let's say, radiology. give yourself some context because your brain likes to store things according to the context and it gives its sense of kind of unity. So radiology, just think about something. It could be, where the Dexter sits in when you were practicing radiology. You all have that room at the school? Yeah, yeah. So you can imagine that environment. You can see maybe the machine hanging on the right side. So give yourself context. By doing so, you are already making bins to store information properly. That's what you are doing instead of just putting them like that. Okay, so this is very easy, but it's going to make a huge difference because when you see a question in the boards, then what I want you to do is go to that context and you see the Walgreens. You are in the Walgreens because you thought about that, and that one trigger can help you continue your journey of finding the answer. So this is the very first step, and I want you to just try to create that for every single chapter. Let's take one more example. What subject is important? Well, I'll tell you what's really important: community or health. Community is extremely important, guys. You're going to see about 30 questions just on community out of the 200 question in session one. That's about 15%. Community is extremely important. So community, what context are you going to give yourself? In my case, I can think about, well, the community outreach that I've done when I was a student at the dental hygiene school, right? Maybe you have a program like that at the school. So again, you just have to visualize a place because we are all visual learners, right? Our brain, if it can start imagining things, it can start seeing things, not just dry information, that's where the magic happens. Okay, so that would be homework for you guys. There's only about 17 chapters. Give yourself some context. And let's continue how the brain encodes information. So you have 4 steps here. Okay, so you have things that are sensory. So me talking to you right now, for example, is sensory. And then it goes to what's called the short-term memory. So it's right here, the prefrontal cortex. And then it needs to be stored in the long-term memory. So it uses this area that is called the hippocampus. That's here. That's a C shape. Okay, a little area here in the temporal lobe, right here in the brain. There are 2 on each side like that. They call this hippocampus. You know what this means in Latin? This is the Latin word for, do you know what animal we're talking about here? Anybody want to take a guess? It lives in the water.
Hippo?
Sorry, a hippo. Okay, it's not a hippo. Thanks for trying, though. Is that Angela?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for trying. Okay, I'm going to try to draw it. Okay, this is going to be a fun class. Does that give you any idea of what I'm talking about? Okay. Come on, I did my best here. My very best. Seahorse, yes, yes, yes. Ashley, seahorse. Okay, so this means seahorse, but they kind of thought it looked like a seahorse back then. So anyways, that's how the name came about. So it gets processed here as a memory center, and then it gets stored in the long-term memory. The long-term memory, they say, live here on the cortex, on the very outside of our brain. Now, what needs to happen is when you have all this information stored, you will have to retrieve it just like this. And that's why we want to create more bins and be organized. The problem here, though, is this part, the encoding part. What is encoding? Encoding is, let me take another here. So encoding is here. So when you are actively putting information from the short-term to the long-term memory using the hippocampus, this is encoding. It is broken. The system is broken here. Why? Because all we do is kind of take more and more sensory information, but we don't really take the effort to put it into the long-term memory. So we're going to learn how to encode the information better so we don't have to forget it ever again in our lives. So the rule to do that is, well, very simple acronym, okay, or I'm okay. Let's say it's I'm okay. So I am okay. So I for intend, M would be, for memorize. So you intend to memorize it, you observe it, and K, well, it's for C, but it's K connect. So you have to intend to do so, observe it, and then connect with something you already know. So why is intent to memorize so important? Because what happens is, just like I said, with the short-term memory, we just get over flooded with information. I mean, if you had a bucket, we are just overflowing all the time, like too much, too much, too much. So we are intending to just control the flow of things that are coming to us. We are trying to not look at our cell phone while we are trying to read our textbook and trying to answer mom is drinking our tea at the same time, right? So that is intent to memorize. And you look at it and you say, I am going to memorize this. Okay, that's as simple as that. When we intend, our brain is ready to do the job. Then you observe it and you connect it to what? To something you already know. So this is the whole concept. So, you have highways, right? When do you all drive to school, or how do you go to school? I live in the city, so I take the subway generally. But let's say you were transporting, you were bringing some apples to your friends to the school. Well, you would use the highway, right? You would drive up the highway. So you're using existing structure that exists instead of, well, I hope you don't try to walk, all the way to school with all those apples. You're not trying to create a road. You're just using whatever you have. So by using your memory that already exists and you put something on top, it's like, loading your truck. So you have your truck, which is existing you, and the highway, you put something on top and you transport it. And that's how the brain can memorize things faster, much, much faster. And it's going to stick with you until you die, literally. Everybody understand this concept? If you have questions, please put it here. I know I'm probably talking about some things you never heard before, but my goal here is much bigger than even just the national boards. I hope this helps you really retain information for the rest of your life and when you do your patient care. So let's take an example over here. I say the drug Abilify is used for, and there are three different answer choices here. Now, generally, what do you do in order to memorize your information? Anybody want to share how you do that? Anybody, for example, make note cards or like say it out loud like multiple times or write it again and again repeatedly? Yes, Ashley. Exactly, right? Anybody else want to share how they try to store information? So, what you said, Ashley, is totally true. Generally, we are trying to repeat it, and repetition definitely works. It's one of the key. But if we do this right before repetition, it's going to be so much stickier. So we're going to, again, use the same rule. So instead of, repeating to ourselves Abilify 10 times and say Abilify is used for, anybody want to take a guess over here? A, B, and C? We have hypertension, schizophrenia, and diabetes. What could it be? We have April, Ashley. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, totally. You guys are so good. You guys are so good. So B is the answer. So generally connecting Abilify to schizophrenia is like a lot of repetition, like again, again, and again. But this is what we can do. So I'm going to observe the word Abilify. And when I think about Abilify or say it, it sounds like able to fly. Does it? Even if it doesn't, it's similar enough. It doesn't have to be exactly the same thing, okay? It reminds you of able to fly. That is kind of good enough for us to say able to fly. Now you create a scenario in your head that helps you memorize that. For example, you are going to think about, well, your patient suddenly got up and he's going to the rooftop and he's going to say, I'm going to show you how I can fly. And the patient, if the patient had a condition, obviously it's not really related to diabetes or hypertension. It's more related to this condition that affects the brain. So just like that, by using information that you already know, which is Abilify, able to fly, and you say, create a story that makes sense to you, you store this new information, which is Abilify, in a much faster, and it's going to stick with you for a much longer time. So that was an example of how we can use wake up memory. So wake up memory, what it is a system that I have created. I myself am a memory champion. I compete in those things. I don't play sports. If you throw a ball at me, I don't know how to catch it. But some of the things that I can do is I compete in national and international memory championships. So I can teach you that. So I'm a memory champion, and I created something that was a little bit more absorbable for all of us, digestible. So that is wake up memory. Now, let's take another example. Anybody seen this video that I've created on YouTube? It's about the hypertension suffixes, right? When we memorize that, we just do a lot of repetition, but we can be just a little bit more efficient over here. Let's do it together. So things that end with OL, what kind of drug classification is it? Anybody want to take a guess here? What classification could that be? Beta blocker, amazing, Sarah. So it is a beta blocker, but instead of like just repeating it 10 times, let's do this. OL. You put the O and L together and it gives you a D and a D, right? And then you flip it, it gives you a B and a B. Everybody follow me so far? And then B and a B gives you, well, the only thing is a beta blocker. Easy, right? I mean, how easy was that? You're using the things that you know already, like a D and a B in your head, like a mirror image, and you get to the conclusion. What about things that end with IDE? What are they used for? What are they used for? Do you guys want to take a guess? And if you say something that is incorrect, totally, no problem, no problem. Okay, so let's do that. ID, I just take the ID of the IDE, and then we're gonna flip it again and say DI. And then we're gonna say diuretic. Perfect. So does that make sense now? ID, DI, diuretic. I mean, how fast was that? And I bet you're never gonna forget that. What about 10? Things that end with 10 would be such as losartan. What I'm gonna think about is 10. How hot or cold is it over there where you are? ARB, thank you, Ashley. It is perfect. And let's discover how we can do it really fast and never make a mistake. So where you are right now, how hot it is. Today where I am right now in the East Coast, it's pretty hot. I would say about 80 degrees. I didn't expect to be 80 degrees on June 3rd. But let's say I was trying to 10 because, well, my best friend is getting married and I'm the bridesmaid. So I'm going to get my arm 10 because my dress looks like it's sleeveless. Okay, the rest of the body, I do not care. My legs are covered, but my arm needs to be 10, for example. So let's think about this scenario. Arm sounds close enough to ARB. You guys follow me so far? Okay, so let's continue with pril. Things that end with pril, what are they? So let's not guess ourselves anymore. Let's just be sure about this. So anybody have thank you, Angela. Anybody have their birthday on the month of April? Anybody April? Well, we have a student named here, April. Is that correct? April, we have an April here already. And anybody have their birthday on April? Right? So April gives you, well, A, which is A. Thank you, April. So let's think about April. So Pril is close enough to April, right? You think about your classmate April over here. And then, well, I take the A out of April, and then it gives me A, like ace. When you have a deck of cards, the A is for the ace. Last one, pine. Okay, what can you connect pine with? Well, there are many different ways to do it, and I'm going to invite you to use your own experience. I'm going to tell you about my experience in California. I think you guys are much closer to California than me, but when I went to California, I was actually really amazed by the landscape. Like, they have everything. They have the beach, they have the mountain, they have the desert, they have everything. And I went to ski at Lake Tahoe and I saw those beautiful pine trees. And that just makes me think, when I think pine, I think about California at the time I skied at Lake Tahoe. So that's good enough for me because I think about California like CA, and it gives me calcium channel blocker. I know it's very personal, right? It might not resonate with you, but what I wanted to show you here is that bring your own experience. You don't have to tell your friends, you don't have to tell your faculty, and it's nice if you share. Maybe that's going to help them, but if you don't want to, it's fine. And nobody is going to ask you in the board examination how you memorize this. This is actually the fast track. We get actually a little bit more concerned that this is cheating our brain. This is like not the hard way to learn, but this is actually how we have always been learning back in the days. So think about when you are 1500 years That was in the medieval times, you know. People didn't write, people didn't read. So that's why when you go to church, you see stained glasses, you see ornaments, you see statues, because that is supposed to help you remember something. So just like this, you need something to grab on, to connect to, in order to memorize the information. So let's now take it to the next step. Now we understand the suffixes, but that's not enough. Let's continue the story, because pharmacology is very complex. I mean, anybody, well, first of all, liking pharmacology is, well, you know, I think I like pharmacology, but memorizing things is difficult, right? So let's think about how we can apply this now in everything we have to learn, because memory is really just a foundation for us to do critical thinking that the board is going to challenge you. So cyclosporin, when I look at the word, okay, remember, I'm okay, I intend to memorize it, I look at it, and then I connect it. So here, what I did is I observed it and connected with cycle, like a bicycle, okay? And then I said, I'm going to focus, I'm going to zoom on the wheels and say round wheels. And that's going to give me what? Round gingiva. Okay, I know we went many different steps to get to round gingiva, but there are many drugs that can cause gingival hyperplasia, gingival enlargement. So instead of just repeating it again, again, and again, if we use this technique, we are on a fast track to memory and then application. So again, let's rewind. I see cyclosporin. Instead of writing it 10 times, I'm going to say, what is it here? Then I can connect to over here. And you say cycle, like a bicycle, and then you zoom in on the round shape of the wheel. That's it. And I bet when your patient comes with a drug that is named cyclosporin, well, you'll be able to remember, oh, maybe I should wash for their gingiva. They might not necessarily have gingivitis. They might just be, well, it could be induced by the drug. What about calcium channel blocker? So let's think about this. Calcium channel blocker. Okay, so I'm going to observe it. So I want to get to, like, again, gingival hyperplasia, but instead of just drilling it in my head by repetition, that's just not fun at all. Because if you write it again and again, it's just not fun. Like, our brain is just not having fun. So we need to bring some fun in here. So I see calcium channel. That's a C and a C. Do you see my hand actually flipped? I'm trying to see if it's a mirror image of what you see. Do you see as a C and a C? Or is it the opposite? However that is. Okay, what I'm going to do is going to flip one, and that gives you an O. That's good enough for me to think, hey, round gingiva, like, oh, round, oh, that's it. Calcium channel blocker. So anybody who comes with calcium channel blocker, remember the story of the pine, then that's going to give you, anybody who's taking drugs related to something pine with hypertension, they might have round gingiva again. So that's how the memory works. And if you continue doing that with most of the things that you want to learn, I mean, you will have more time to enjoy life. You will have more time to do other things that mean a lot to you. So let's go back to this question that we had in the beginning, which is, which medication causes gingival overgrowth? And there were 4 different choices. And we all said it was A, right? But let's trace it back. So nifedipine is the correct answer, but remember again, pine, okay, well, pine gives me calcium channel blocker. Remember, I did the C and a C, and I put it into an O, and that gives me round gingiva overgrowth. Does that make any sense to you guys? I'm trying to show you a few examples of how we can use memory techniques. And again, this acronym of, I'm going to put it here, I'm okay. I intend to memorize it, I observe it, and I connect it. I'm okay. You're going to use that in order to try to memorize probably everything that you have in dental hygiene. Any questions, guys? I know, you know, all those concepts that I've talked about can be a little challenging, but I hope it's fun, because this is, again, the fast track for our memory. Great, great. Okay, so a little bit more example here. I know I've done pharmacology, but what about other chapters like nutrition? Okay, well, alcohol is about 7 kilocalories. How are we going to remember this? How? Anybody can count how many letters there are in alcohol? Anybody want to count? So we have ALCOHOL. How many letters are there in the word alcohol? Perfect. Actually, 7, right? Thank you. So just like that, what you've done is you actually observe it and you connected it to something you already know, which is counting 7. And there you go, the answer, 7 kilocalories. Isn't that easy? Now fat, instead of like, repeating it 10 times, carbohydrate 3, fat 9, what you're going to see is fat. Okay, so there are a few ways to do it. How many letters are there in fat? I mean, that's very easy. So that's 3, right? If you do what? 3 by 3, that gives you a 9, right? Okay, that's one way to memorize it. So you do 3 by 3. Another way to memorize it, and this is what I do. Okay, I look at this and it's like there's a lot of curve, like it's a curvy person, like, and this is a big belly. Like I focus on this part and think like a, big belly, maybe a cartoon character has a big belly, and I think, okay, 9 fat 9. So that's what I do. So you can visualize it. You can do tricks like 3 by 3. That is all very personal. But what you have done is you connected it with what you already know, what makes sense to your brain. If we're trying to just pile one after another new information, it is going to be very difficult to make it stick, okay? So that's why I'm trying to just show you many different ways to use the brain to its full capacity using wake-up memory. Now let's forward to periodontology, an extremely, extremely important chapter. So this is about, well, those 3 bacteria that you see are related to chronic periodontitis. We have PG, TF, and TD. So what I'm going to do is instead of trying to memorize it by writing it down, by saying it 10 times, I'm going to be a little different, a little smarter here, and a P and a G. So I think about a animal name that has P and G in it. What do you think that could be? In my head, it's really easy. What about a pig? Okay. So what about an animal that has a T and an F here? Or not an animal. What about, I guess a candy. Yeah, let's do a candy. What about toffee? Okay. What about now, the last one is a T and a D. Let's do an animal that has T and a D in it. What about a toad? Okay, now you suddenly have pig, toffee, and toad. Now, I don't know if people, who heavily study periodontology are going to like this, but again, this is how we have always been learning for the past thousands and millions of years, actually. So let's just get our power back by using really the full potential of our brain. So we have a pig, toffee, and a toad. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want to make a jam? I mean, sorry, a sandwich with the pig, a toffee in the middle, and the toad on top? Okay, or you can do many different things. You can imagine the toad being on in the pig, and then the pig can drink the toffee. There's just so many combinations that you can do over here, but at the end, all you wanted to do is put those 3 things together somehow so that you can remember those 3 things are related to chronic periodontitis. Okay, any questions? I know those concepts can be like, whoa, Claire, what are you talking about here? And if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them later. You might need a bit of time to digest, but again, if you start doing this for every single chapter, your studying is going to be fun. Like you're going to have fun doing it. It's not going to feel like, oh, periodontology, oh, bacteria.
Claire, I agree with you. And sometimes the sillier the better
Oh,
because you won't forget them.
totally. I completely agree with you. It's like you need to make like Harry Potter or Alice in Wonderland in your head. That's why you remember. I mean, who likes Harry Potter? I don't like Alice in Wonderland. That story is like crazy to me, but um that's personal. But I love Harry Potter because it like draw my attention. So do it for your own self. And just like your professor said, well, the weirder the better. Because if you think about commercials, I mean, if a commercials were giving you all the benefit of using this antibacterial soap, who wants to listen to that? So they make it fun. They bring actor that you like so you can emotionally relate to it. They bring fun music. They bring a weird storyline so you can remember, like the Geico commercial. It's like, whoa, what happened here? So your brain starts to, really pay attention. So that's what you want for your own self. If you had, let's say, 1 hour to study, I would much rather you doing this than trying to just read and read and read and more. Okay. And thank you guys for following me. Thank you for all participating. Now, this is again in the context of what we can do to prepare ourselves. You have about 1 month, a month and a half to go. So what else? Well, what about schedule? What about planning? Anybody have a plan here? Like, did you ever create a plan saying, I'm going to study pharmacology those days. I'm going to do medical emergencies those days. Anybody has one of those? So, at StudentRDH, if you had the board's review book that we have that is paired with the online version, you can see all of this. You can see the schedule. I kind of make you do a schedule if possible. So what it is really just seeing the end and then, looking at the end and see how many days you need for certain things. Because the last thing I want you to do is go there and say, I didn't have time to review medical emergencies. Right? We don't want to skip any chapter. So it's kind of just really doing the math, saying, okay, let's say you have, in your case, you have, about 45 days, but here I did the math for 80 days. And if you had about 17 chapters, that's what we have at StudentRDH. If you're using Mosby, you have many more chapters because they broke it down to smaller components. So, just think what you have as a board's review, and then you try to do the math and say, how many days do I have to finish one chapter? This is just generalization of, okay, 4 to 5. Medical emergency is a much smaller chapter than periodontology, for example. So peri, you can say maybe 5 days. Medical emergency, you might even need only 2 days. So I want you to just write here, let's say pharma, 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 pharma. And then when you're done, what would be the next one? Then you have to write, let's say, or pathology, maybe you want to take some breaks. So I just want you to just do the math and see, do you even have enough time? Because there's always rescheduling option. I don't want you to guys go there and feel stressed and feel like you have not done enough. But the question remains, what do we start with? When you're studying, and you probably are already started studying, so it's not really the start for you, but what would be your focus? So I always say you need to really identify your weakness. And for me, the mechanism of identifying the weakness is really just trying to be honest with myself. So this is a StudentRDH, but you can do this with your textbook as well. So all I have here is a chapter, and I just even write down how confident I am. I just want to be honest to myself. Do I feel confident? Because if I'm not confident, I better start with that. And I take my quiz. So there are 2 quizzes in StudentRDH, set 1 and set 2. If you have a textbook, maybe you can use 2 different sets of questions with 2 different textbooks, or however you can schedule that. But you take the first quiz, don't even study that, and then you write your score. And then you write down how many days you need to study according, to what we have done here, let's say about 5 days. And then you study, and then you retake your quiz. And you say, I've done better than before. You are measuring yourself. You've been honest. It's like when you go to a fitness training, they measure before and after, right? Even with your patient, do you take before and after after they care? What their teeth look like after that's the same concept. Measure yourself just like we take intraoral pictures. Take pictures of your own self, of your own progress, and then you take set 2 quiz. But what I want to see is actually, I want, if I had the choice, I want everybody to take set 1 quiz before anything else. That is really a baseline. Just like you do your measurement perioprobing for every single tooth, that is the baseline. And then from here, you're going to decide, for example, if you had a 50 here, like I really am not great at embryology, I better start with that. Process of care, you score 40. Ooh, okay. Well, dental material, you love it, you scored 90. So this gives you an opportunity to highlight some of the things you really need to pay attention to. Because, for example, if you run out of time, I would rather skip biomaterial versus embryology in this case. So if you have the time, please find a way to measure yourself. If you want this is free at StudentRDH. I will give it to you for free. you can ask to get the PDF. There, if you go to StudentRDH.com, there's an area that says free, and you can download this for your own self. And so this is one more thing I wanted to add. Lastly, when you are trying to practice on your computer. Why? Why? Well, this is just quickly a overview of what it looks like to sit in an examination. This is session 1. Session 1 has 150 questions, and you are going to see answer choices, generally 3 to 5, okay? And you're just going to keep picking the answer and move on. So that is kind of the general idea of session 1. This is StudentRDH, just because I cannot go over there and take their screenshot. What I want to show you here is that there's a flag function as well, okay? So StudentRDH has it as well, and then you'll be able to go back to that later. So use that flag function in your board examination as well, okay? Instead of just worrying about, did I get this right or not? You're just gonna flag it and move on like it is still the best day of your life. You don't wanna be hung up of what happened before, but what's gonna happen, let's say you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 question, and the question here, like you didn't know what the answer was. So that emotional baggage and saying, oh, I didn't know the answer, I'm going to fail, that carries on. And then, you know, when you're question number 3, you're still thinking about question 1. You're still going to think about question 1 when you're going to question 4. So instead of doing that, guys, just flag it and say, I'm breaking up with you. I'll see you later. That's what you need to do, okay? Because there's a lot of psychology you have to apply. The board examination is part knowledge, guys. It's part psychology. You know, I've seen so many bright students fail. Why is that? It's not because they didn't know. They were awesome at school as well, because of how they felt during that examination. It's because, you know, of the emotional stress they had. So I just want you to know that I'm not here to scare you. I'm just here to tell you that that could happen, but we are doing everything right now to prevent that. So when that happens, anyways, flag function again. Now let's go to session number 2. No. So if you see here, what it is a graph of, so this is, let's say this is the same, this is a study, but the same exam. One group took it on paper, another group took it on computer. And do you see which group scored lower? The group who tested on paper or the group who tested on computer? The answer is the group that tested on the computer scored lower. Why? Why is that? Paper is easier, right? And I'm going to ask you, Professor Leon, at this school, what type of examination does the student have to go through?
Well, it used to be on paper, but now since we're teaching everything online, all of their exams are online right now. And they do have that flag part where they can flag it and go back. So they do have that. So it's, but before this COVID thing, yeah, they were in the classroom and they had it on paper. So I am actually really glad that they have to take it on the computer now.
Okay, I'm really, really glad too. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I'm glad just because of the statistics. And there, you know, let's think about this. There's so many reasons why computer is actually more difficult. We might think it's easier, but it's not. Why? Well, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm gonna have my phone, and let's say I'm looking at Facebook. How do you read on Facebook? It's like this. It's like this, right? Do you see my screen here? So what I'm trying to show you is that when we read on the computer, we're used to Facebook, we're used to Instagram. So we're going really, really fast. That's how our brain has been trained, right? With the computer, just go fast. You skim through, you don't really read all the details. You go fast. That's one problem. The other problem is, well, we lose all our text, senses, like to touch, the dimension, the pen, all of that, because all of that is good for the brain. Our brain, again, think about millions of years ago, we're not meant to sit on the computer for like 8 hours. This is, they would scream because it's just our body is not created, our brain is not created that way. So our body is just not compatible with this too. Like our blood is not going to go enough over here as well. That's another reason. So again, many different, and one more thing I would say is that, when you're reading, your eyes glued on the computer, I mean, your eyes get tired. Your eyes get tired, your brain get tired. They're like right there connected. So when you're reading with the screen that gives you like this LED light, and we don't even blink enough when you are on the computer, you're going to feel so strained. So again, many reasons. So that's why I say practice with the computer, but it's awesome because you are already doing that. Because the last thing I want the students to think, I'm doing great, my grades are great, but all of I've been tested is on the paper. It's just a different stats, like running a treadmill versus like a real marathon. So just think about that. So that is really about what you can do for your examination. In here, actually, I want you to just so Cordy's is not able to join us today, but I'm going to do a raffle for a gift card. Anybody wants to win a gift card over here? So this is a chance for all of our students to participate. You can text me at 202-410-4202 and you will be able to get a gift card from me. It's just from me. 20 $20 Amazon gift card. I hope that can help you buy a little something because all the shopping I've done has been Amazon so far because I can't go to the store. So if you want that, just text me at 202-410-4202. What you text me, you text student RDH in it, and that's gonna get you entered right away. So I'm gonna quickly look at my phone to see if the entries are coming correctly. I can also put the text number over here and you can do that while I continue our presentation. And I know I talked a lot about many different things, and we are recording this as well. So if you would like to go back to some of the concept we talk about, take your time. In the meantime, though, we're going to continue. Now, the second part really, so I see some coming through. Perfect. So I'm not looking at my phone for nothing. I'm just making sure this is working. So I will be happy to announce a winner by the end of our presentation today. Good. So now let's talk about what you can do during the examination. I mean, the game is not over yet. Even though, you did an okay preparation, you don't feel 100% confident, that's okay. Because there are things that you can do when you're sitting there to maximize your score. Okay? So let's get those points up. One is to find keywords. So again, I always love those contouring images. They're just so funny. The web is just, I don't know how people come up with memes. Like I just don't know. That's not in my brain, but I'm just having a lot of fun when they post things like that. So what I'm trying to see here is again, find the keyword. That is, what was it? There is a great Jason Mama one out there. What is this, Ashley? Can you like find it, tag me, StudentRDH or something? I would love to see what Jason Mama is. All right. So you might feel like dental hygiene school needs to be like that, highlight every single thing, right? How many of you have done that? But the truth is, this is a little difficult because our eyes, we didn't make any progress by doing this. We just highlighted every single thing. So instead, we're going to find the keyword, just the keyword, meaning I'm going to delete every of the is, for example, all of those are, first of all, fluff word. You don't need them. And there's always something in there that's more important than the other word. So let's try to use those examples together over here. So on the left side, anybody here who would like to volunteer reading those questions for everybody who is on our webinar today? Any volunteers out there? You can unmute yourself and read this specific question. Let's see. Is that okay to call out anybody here? I think we have someone. Was that Kyla? Did you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Perfect. Thank you. Well,
Okay.
Kyla, thanks for volunteering. Can you please read the answer question on the left side and the answer choices, please?
Okay, the red one?
Yes.
Okay. Probing depth is 4 millimeters. The tissue is inflamed, and the distance from the CEJ to the gingival margin is 2 millimeters. Calculate the cal.
Okay. So what do you think it is? And you can be totally wrong as well. Nobody's here to judge you. Can we try to solve this together? So what is the keyword over here? Give me one keyword if you had to choose among all of the text you have over here.
CEJ?
Okay, great. Any other keywords that's really you think is important here?
Cal.
Cal, okay. And then one more thing. We need to calculate the cal, but what indication do we have here that is really important to know how we're going to calculate? Because, sometimes we can add them up and sometimes we have to subtract the numbers. So what is a keyword here that can get us to that answer?
Inflamed.
Perfect, perfect. Inflamed is the complete correct, well, not correct, but I would say the main keyword here. Because if it was recession, the math is totally different. Okay, so thank you. How did I pronounce your name correctly, Kayla, or how do you pronounce your
Kyla.
name? Kyla. Okay, thank you, Kyla, for volunteering. Um, and we're going to discover how we are going to put those numbers together. So in flame, I want you to think about a magnet. It's like a plus and a minus. They stick together like that, right? So if it's in flame, which is a plus, you're going to subtract. You're put a minus. You're going to subtract the numbers. Or if it's a, um, sorry, it's a recession, okay? Recession, it's a minus, so you put the plus together and you're going to add the numbers together. So in our case, it's in fame. So it's a plus, so we're going to actually subtract the numbers. So that gives us 2 millimeter in this case. Okay, does that make sense here? And how we can memorize how we're going to just do the math in this case.
I always have a phrase that I say,
Of
recession bad,
course.
recession add.
Say that again, please.
Recession bad, recession add.
Recession bad.
Yes, recession is bad, so you
So we
add.
should, oh, so you
So
add. Oh, I
recession
get it.
bad,
I get it.
recession add.
Perfect. That's it. That's it. That's also a memory technique. You find something in there that kind of makes sense to your brain and you memorize it that way. That is a book. So you guys have no problem solving this on your own as well. Thank you for sharing. All right. Do we have another volunteer who can maybe read our question on the right side? And you can unmute yourself or you can say in the chat that you could volunteer possibly. Okay, so
I'll go ahead.
yes, thank you. What is your name?
Ashley.
Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, let's try this on the right side.
Which condition is most likely to be related to these symptoms?
Mm-hmm.
Fetid odor, punched out papilla, necrotic sloughing tissue, bleeding gums, pain, fever, but no loss of attachment.
Great, great. And the answer choices, please.
A. Nug. B. Nup. C. Herpetic gingivostomatitis. Or D. Chronic periodontitis.
Okay, perfect. And in this case, I'm going to ask you the same. What do you think? I know there's a lot of things going on in this question, but what could be the most important keyword or keywords over here?
I think the punched out papilla is definitely an indicator, and the odor.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then let's continue, really. You have nup and nug and nup over A and B. But what is it in the question that can help you get to the correct answer if you had to choose between A and B?
The no loss of attachment.
Perfect, perfect. So for me, I think this was a really important keyword because, all of those, lead to some sort of ulcerative periodontitis. But which one would it be? So like you have seen over here, thank you, Ashley, for volunteering. There's something always that is a little bit more important than the other one. So when you are reading questions in anything that you do, still school examination, just find what's most important here because that is going to be your clue to the answer. And let's do a quick math together. So you have 350 questions in the dental hygiene board examination. Each question has about, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, whew, let's say about 30 words. Okay. And what would be the math for that? That's Is that? Sorry, guys, I'm gonna just, okay, well, that's correct. Okay, so well, that's 105. Okay, so you have about over 10,000 words in there. Now, I haven't even counting the case studies. Each case study has hundreds of words in there. Okay, so let's say each case study, there's about no, no, 10 case studies, and let's say each case study about have 500 words. So 500 words, and then that's 10, so it's 5,000. So in total, you have about 15,000 words. And, I'm being like, nice here. You might have 30,000 words depending on the question set that you get. So you have, let's say, 15 or 30,000 words coming at you the same day, like within one examination. We're going to feel tired. Our brain is going to give up on us. So when you focus, zoom in on some of the things that are most important, that's how you alleviate all of the fluff that's going on. So I want you to just start practicing that if possible. But the problem is, again, it's our eyes versus the computer screen. We cannot circle things anymore. I mean, I like doing this, right? Right? But we can't. So it's your eyes. You got to find the keyword like that. Okay, so we looked at the keyword concept now, and now let's look at some of the things you can do when you're preparing though. So here, for example, I'm looking at this sentence that says acetaminophen, like Tylenol, is not anti-inflammatory. Okay, so it has nothing to do with inflammation. It's not going to help with inflammation. So if you have a patient who has inflammation, you're going to tell them to take some other medicine, such as Advil, ibuprofen, Motrin. Acetaminophen, Tylenol is not going to help you in this case. So when you are studying, StudentRDH already has some things highlighted for you, which really means keyword here. But if you're studying with something else, please also find the keyword as you are studying. Now, the second rule I want to give you when you are sitting in the board examination, you're going to slow down. When you go to the examination, how many hours a student uses to finish the boards? 2 to 3 hours. You know how many hours the exam is? Like 8 to 9 hours. It depends on whether you count the lunch time or not. But they haven't even used half of the time that they were given. It's like you're speeding here. We're in a danger zone. It's like speeding. You're gonna get a ticket, that's fine. When you are failing here, there's a lot of consequences. So I hope you never get there. And I'm telling you, everybody finishes way before time. It's like precious time that you were given. Please use it all. Okay, slow down. Go much slower. And also your heart is beating because it's an important examination. So you are doing things as your heartbeat. That is way faster. So you need to find a way to slow yourself down. And here, I'm going to do this exercise in this case. I want to just show you this. What is the amount of energy produced by 10 grams of fat? And the answer, there are many answer choices here, but when I do this exercise, and you don't have to tell me what you think it is, okay? You can just put it in your head. A lot of people give me 9. Why is that? Because they see fat, and they're like 9. But what's another keyword here that was really important? That was 10. So 10 gives you 90. Totally different answer. So what I wanted to show you here is the concept of see, you have seen 200 questions, and when you see this, it's really hard to pay attention to. So again, find the keywords and go slower, because I don't want you to miss things like this that you already know the answer to, but you made a mistake because you are going a little too fast and you skipped this crucial 10. You think in your head 1, because our textbook always says 1, so we are conditioned to think 1. Okay, so I just want you to slow down. Slowing down will help you just take everything in better. Lastly, we just need one more volunteer here, someone who can help us read the question on the right side. Anybody here? Or not, I'm going to unmute someone all of a sudden. If you volunteer, I would much prefer that, please.
Come on,
okay,
guys.
well.
I can do it.
Thank you. Who do we have here?
Sarah.
Kira, thank you. Okay, so question, please, and then answer choices.
The following are true about the modified pen grasp except A, fingers form a soft C shape.
B, ring finger rests against the middle finger. C, pad of the middle finger rests on the instruments. D, thumb and ring finger are placed opposite of each other on the handle.
Okay, perfect. So in this case, what do you think? I mean, first of all, this is an except question, so that's difficult, right? Anybody freaked out over questions like that yet before in your school examination? So in your mind, what do you think the answer could be?
I think it's B.
Okay, so we're finding something that is except, meaning that is wrong.
Right.
Okay, so let's do that. So you say fingers of the C shape. Okay, we know that. That's true. Okay, so when you have an except question, let's play the true and false game together. Okay, something, something except, something, something false. Always a true and false game. Okay, the ring finger rests against the middle finger. Can we try that with a pen or something? Does it rest against it? Is that true or false? I don't know if you can see my hand because I have a virtual background.
It's false because it's your fulcrum.
Okay, that I totally understand. Who was that, please?
Angela.
Angela, thank you, Angela. Okay, so this, we're going to leave it as a question mark. We're not completely sure yet. Okay, pad of the middle finger rests on the instrument. Is that true or false?
I want to say that's true.
Okay, let's put a true over here. And this is a very, very difficult question, guys. Okay, that's why I have it here. And I'll tell you why it is difficult. Okay, let's go to D. Thumb and ring finger are placed opposites of each other on the handle.
True. Oh, that one's not true.
Right, you have tried this, right? This thing is separate, right? Oh, sorry, I mean, I know that I used a weird word, separate. No, I mean, so yes, it's they're not opposite of each other on the handle, right? What are the opposite of the handle?
Pointing finger and the thumb.
Perfect. Thank you, thank you. And Angela, let's go back to that. So we have false, and that is the answer. However, for example, you said this: the ring finger rests against the middle finger, and you have a point because this is a fulcrum. It's not really like they can't be dependent on each other in a sense that because the fulcrum needs to be strong. In this case, though, we need to find the best answer. So it's an except question, but I want you to just always think about what is the best answer, especially when you're going to community or health, because you're going to see a lot of questions that is in the gray zone, like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this too. So we get frustrated sometimes if we think there's only one and good answer. If you look at the NBDHE guideline, they actually tell you that too. Just find the best answer. Sometimes it's not black and white. So, and this happens to our students. That's why I mentioned this, but they can say, hey, the board is trying to trick me here. Sometimes we feel like that, saying, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. They are just trying to fail me here. But what they're really trying to do is ask you the best answer in this scenario. So let's just get into this mentality. While my pink shoes make sense and my tennis shoes also make sense, but which one is the best for the specific occasion? So that's what we're getting to. And thank you very much, Angela, because that reminded me that I should talk about this. So again, especially with community oral health, because yeah, talking about oral cancer is helpful. Yes, brushing teeth is helpful. Like all of this is helpful, but which one is the correct answer? There's not one correct answer. It's just which one is best. All right, so I think I said it enough. Then thank you everyone for volunteering. Okay, so let's continue over here with our story with number 3, which is taking breaks. So number 2 was to slow down. Number 1 was to find keywords, take breaks. Well, I want you to show this graph very easy. In the beginning, you start really strong, and what happens after that? I mean, it is completely normal. Our body is not meant to be sitting down like this. We lose focus, normal again. But if you take a rest over here, see, you go way up again. So if you feel like your focus is going down or you're getting bored or something's happening, you're questioning yourself, take a moment, raise your hand. All you have to do is this, raise your hand. Someone is going to come escort you out, and then you'll be able to use the restroom and come back, do your jumping jacks or breathe on the hallway, whatever that is, and then come back. So that's how it's going to roll. So when you go there, if you feel like you need a rest, plenty of time. Again, I told you 2 to 3 hours people finish, right? You have way more time than that. So take a break. And then we get to number 4, which is reuse or rewind strategy. So have you ever double checked your answers before you submitted them? Some of do, some don't. You know, it's like you have to review them. Again, you have time, guys. You have time. Use it the best way you can. So take a rest first. This is my my opinion. But take a rest and come back and then start with the back. Start with 200, 199, 198, 197 and go towards the front. And the whole point of this is because of this curve. At the end, we are more likely to make mistakes because we are tired. In the beginning, we're nice and fresh. So we're using this science in order to minimize our effort. So we're going to always start from the back and move forward. If time's up and you're like question 50, I didn't have to review the first 50 questions, that's okay because more likely you are fine. You are really alert in the beginning. So please use the rewind strategy. That was number 4. Okay, so there's one more here. Reread each case. So that should be at number 5. But anyhow, reread each case, meaning this is, again, a screenshot of StudentRDH. So this is how our mock examination roll. This is a chart, patient profile, radiograph, and photograph. You will have to click the tabs in order to get to the correct answer. That is with StudentRDH. That is with the board examination. Same format. And don't worry, the hypertension 1, 2, and 3, we change all of that, not 3, with the new guidelines. Okay, so this is just an old screenshot. But what I want to show you here is that there are about 10 case studies. Okay, everybody has a different set. Okay, so I'm just generalizing. You have about 10, and each 10 case studies have, well, about 15 questions. So what happens is that generally we read the case once. We're like, I got this. I see the profile, I see the chart, radiograph, panorama, a photograph, and then you go through the answers, questions one by one. And a lot of times, a lot of students like to go through all the question. You read it once, you go through all the questions. Now the problem here is that there's no chance, there's impossible that we know all the information that is going with the patient. We have to go back to the radiograph. We have to go back to the pictures and make sure like, oh, the lesion was actually here. What color was it? Or what was the blood pressure of the patient? How old is the blood pressure? Oh, no. How old is the patient? What medication are they taking? So we have to be very precise. So I tell our students, because I know generally what the students do, they read it once and this is session 2. This is like, I mean, I wish it was actually session 1 because this is the more difficult part and it's right after the lunch, okay? So we have a lot of challenges here. But on top of that, if you just read it once and try to solve all the questions, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. So what I'm asking you is like treat every question like you're seeing a new case. So you're going to read the case question, read the case question, read the case question, or you can say question, but I'm going to find the clue in the case study. Question number 5. Let me find the clue here. So every time you need to double check with yourself, okay? I know what's going to happen. You will want to just finish. Your brain might scream at you and saying, hey, it's just time to go to Netflix now. It's time to just get some ice cream. But guys, we have one chance here. So I want you to just really use this case study slowly and being able to minimize your mistakes. It's okay if you make mistakes, at the end we're shooting for 75, okay? Don't beat yourself up. We're shooting for 75, okay? But minimize a few mistakes may actually, may be a make it or break it situation. So I just wanted to emphasize how we solve our case studies. And lastly, there's a few things I want you to do before you go to the examination. I want you to just imagine a sentence that can help you get in a better mindset. So it could be when I and something negative, okay? And then you say, then I. So when I, then I. And it could be as when I, when I feel like I'm going to start failing the examination, then I, and you give yourself something to think about. It could be, your family members. It could be anything. It could be something like, I might think about the nicest pair of shoes that I have at home. I have a beautiful pair of pink shoes. Like, I think about that and that makes me happy already. So whatever that is to you, you are going to change your mindset. So I want you to walk in there with that already. Don't make it on the go. You make it today. It takes 3 seconds to make it, okay? Anything that is positive. And if that doesn't resonate with someone else, that is fine. It's just you. That's for yourself. So that's one thing I want you to do. Another thing, I want you to visit the test center. So you probably are going to drive, right, to the test center for the NBDHE, right? So if you drive, well, do the drive already. Don't leave it to, whatever is going to happen that day. You take control of the situation. You're going to go there. You're going to see how long it takes you to drive. You're going to see where parking is. You're going to find your spot already today, okay? You're going to see how much parking is. Get your coins already. You're going to see where the entrance is. Because of what's happening right now, the entrance might not be right there in the front door. You might need to like take the back end and being able to walk in, which I don't know through which door. So you need to analyze all of that already. If you can go up the elevator, go up the elevator. So you are trying to make things predictable. You are trying to understand what is going to happen already. Okay, so take that all in, okay? Register it in your head. And then when you go home after you visit test center, you're gonna get your clothes already. Whatever you're going to feel comfortable wearing that day, you're like winning clothes, whatever that means to you. Okay. For me, is this. For me, it's black pants. It's like I'm ready to go every day. So whatever that is to you, you prepare those clothes. So you have this test center in your head. You have your clothes. What you're going to do very last is in the shower, I want you to just visualize your success. So you know what you're going to wear. You know what the test center looks like. So you're going to start telling your story of how you are going to be awesome that day. So it starts with, I'm going to wear this. I'm going to drive there. I'm going to park here. I'm going to get through this entrance. When I get there, I'm going to get a cubby. When I sit down, now if you might see not be able to see the computer, but you can kind of just generally have an idea what a computer looks like. So imagine yourself being there and imagine yourself doing an awesome job saying, I'm going to be calm. I'm going to review the keywords. I'm going to go slow and I'm going to rewind from the back. I'm going to do an awesome job with my case studies. So you create your own success story until the day of the examination. And after that, I want you to think what's really important, what you're going to eat afterwards. Yeah, you are making complete. Like this is like the story that you're going to tell yourself for the next 45 days. Because the brain is actually incapable of telling whether it's real or not. So if you feed yourself that story, your brain and body is going to start absorbing it, saying this is actually going to happen. Okay, success is not just creating like that. It needs to live in your head. It needs to marinate. So do that today. That would be my biggest homework today. Would not be go find a textbook and start reading. It's create your own success story. And that really, guys, is towards the end. There's one more thing I want to share. Okay, eat banana. That's great because lots of potassium. If you remember the nerve, there's a sodium potassium channel. So a nerve, this is 100 billion nerves right here in our brain. They need that. They need a lot of, listen to me, carbohydrate. There are two things your brain needs, carb and water. We're not doing a carb-free diet for the next 45 days. We need all the fuel the brain needs, okay? I'm not here to try to tell you that eat bread as much as you can, but on the day of the examination, when you feel like you need some food, get the carb. It's not the protein that's going to help you use your brain. It is the carb, okay? Carb and water. There are two things the brain needs, glucose and water. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And very lastly, if you feel like sometimes your brain is, well, second guessing yourself. You have, let's say you chose A, but then you're suddenly like, is this answer B actually? What do you do? Do you stick with your first instinct or do you change the answer? I think we all know the answer to this, right? The answer is you stick with the first one. And I'll tell you thank you, Kyla, a scientific reason for that. So There's a Netflix documentary that is called Memory Hackers. You can find it. It's a very good documentary about the brain, and it talks about sleep, many different things. It's awesome. So there's the study, and the scientists invited a lady, and it was a study about kind of our perception and what our brains believe. Anyhow, the scientist asked the lady, I heard there was some violence when you were growing up, and the lady says, no, that didn't happen. And then the scientist let her go, invites her back, saying, well, I have a report in my hand that it shows that there was some things going on. And the lady thinks, No." But then the third time she's invited back, now the story changes. The lady who thought there was no violence starts changing her story. She says, well, I think I actually heard some police outside my door when I was young. And she is making up the story. She's believing, she's buying into the story of what actually happened. And that was just an experiment, that was not related to actually what happened. There was nothing going on in our childhood that the report was fake. So what I'm trying to say here is that our brain is very good at believing our story that we're telling ourselves. So that's why visualization works. Like your success story, you will believe it. But let me tell you the context of choosing our answer. So when you absorb information, actually gets stored in the massive database that we have that we don't exactly even know where it is. It's like the subconscious. That's why when you dream, you pull out the detail about the car that was parked next to you, you don't even remember. Like we absorb everything that's happening. So actually what you're reading is actually here though, okay? It's here. It's messy, but it's still here. So when you actually look at the answer choices and say, this is the one, you're pulling out from the raw database. But when you're second guessing yourself, you're doing like what the lady did. You're creating a story saying, oh, actually, I think I saw it in page 3 of my textbook. That was not even true, guys. Okay. Or say, oh, my Professor Leanne, I think she told us about that in the last class. She didn't even mention that. Okay. So we're creating stories for ourselves to believe what we want to believe now. So that's what I wanted to provide a little bit more scientific research that connects the brain of why we have to stick to the first answer. So I hope I convince you anyways to stick to your first answer. So that is that. And this is the end of our presentation here today. And I just want to thank all of you for being here. And I know when you started your journey, you were all excited and you are so close to the end game. Everybody here is rooting for you, your professor, your director, your family members, and myself as well. Feel free to ask me anything. My name is Claire. I'm the founder of StudentRDH. This is not my home. This is a virtual background, as you can see, because I really don't have a pretty background right now in my home. So, but I wish you the best, okay? July will come. It will be your moment to shine. Please create your success story. And I just want 2 words. Email me 2 words, guys. What do you think those 2 words are? I passed. That's it. That's all I want to hear. Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. You can still ask me questions, okay? You can unmute yourself. We can have a chat. I am here for you today. Yeah. Well, thank you. You guys have been wonderful. And again, we recorded this. Now, I didn't forget. We have to give the gift card, right? So I'm pulling out my phone. Do you see it? Okay. So what I have is I just have a bunch of email that tells me someone entered. So I'm just going to randomly select someone. Okay, so I'm going to randomly, I don't even see the names, okay? I'm going to randomly select someone from here. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Whew. So do we have a Jacqueline over here? Do we have a Jacqueline?
Yes, we do.
Jacqueline, hello, where are you? Let me see.
Right here.
Right.
I don't have a picture.
You don't have a picture. That is okay. Well, congratulations, Jacqueline. You are the winner of this giveaway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you get an email from me saying, hey, you won. So I'm going to give you this gift card and this is how it works. Okay?
I also did have a question.
Yeah.
I had already bought Student RDH, but I saw that you had a book as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we already bought it, is there any way to buy the book separately?
Oh, separately? Yeah, for sure. So you have the basic package, the online version. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the book. I know this my virtual background is like, okay, guys. Yeah. So let me you definitely can. So this is the book, and you will be able to, if you email me, I will send you a link so you can add on that specific book. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Perfect. So you just tell me, hey, is Jacqueline, today at the webinar, you told me that I could buy the book separately. So guys, this is it. Again, sorry, I don't have a pretty background, so that's what I was talking
Your
about.
background's great. Mine's not. Yeah.
It's live, right? It's live.
Yep.
I know. Okay. Who knew we were in this situation? Even myself. Who knew? I have the top of a salad spin over there that broke. It's real life.
Uh,
So
understand.
anyways, yeah, anybody who has student RDH already, then you can all request to just add the book. It's an add-on if you want to. And as you can see, I want to show you that each line item, can you see I have like a little box in front of it?
Yep.
So what it is I want you to use this as a giant checklist. So everything has a checkbox in front of it. So you feel like, oh yeah, I know this. I see the picture here, check, 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 check. So it's like a grocery list. And you're going to do this for the entire book. So it just helps you focus a little better on the information than just reading it. So you're reading it, checking it at the same time. And don't check it if you don't know it, because you're going to come back to that later and check it off once you know it. So that's how the book works. So it's a little different than a regular textbook or some other review book that you might have from Mosby or things like that.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. Anybody else who has a question here? You guys have been a wonderful, wonderful group. What's going on today with you now? Are you you have more classes to go to? No, no, no,
I
no.
think they have a makeup session, so there's some of them that will be in clinic this afternoon.
Okay, a
So
clinic,
yeah,
meaning
because we
like.
are starting to see patients. We started this
Oh, I
week.
see, I see. How is that going?
So
Ready?
so I see Angela going so.
Really?
I haven't been there in clinic since I've been doing online classes, and I'm with the other class, the newbie class that we're still doing typodonts.
Okay.
But they're starting to see patients, and like I said, some of them started seeing their classmates first, but
Okay.
some of them are going to be seeing real patients, I think, today and then.
Ooh. Okay, okay. I just
So
really hope everything goes well. Patients are
we
going to be
have
nice to you.
wonderful PPE. We have really good
Perfect.
protocols, and we're only doing 6 students at a time and 2
Okay.
faculty. So
Nothing to fear. Nothing to
yeah,
fear.
with the curtain down the middle so we can separate the room out. We're
Oh,
doing
you
all the
installed
protocols.
curtains.
Well, because we have a curtain when we do our when we take boards,
Oh,
when we have
yeah,
boards,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we
yeah,
have a way
yeah.
to separate it out anyway. So I think they're using, did they use the curtains yesterday? Yeah, they did. Because
Uh-huh.
they want to, because we want to stay by the rule of, only 10 people per room. So we're
Sure,
dividing the
yeah.
room up to making it that
Perfect.
way. And they're
All right.
putting up yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think they're doing well. We have some good protocols set.
Perfect. I'm happy to hear that. I feel like your school done everything already to make this happen the perfect way. Because I communicate with a lot of schools, and I'll tell you, a lot of schools are not ready yet. So
Oh,
it's great you're
well,
ahead of the
Miss
curve.
also, our director has spent so
Mm-hmm.
much time in preparing
Mm-hmm.
and taken a lot of information together, and
Mm-hmm.
has set it up really well for us. So we
Okay.
appreciate all her efforts.
Very nice. All right.
Well, this program, Claire, is fantastic. I
Oh, you
just,
are
even
so
this
kind.
memory, I so appreciate it. I know I'm speaking from the students on how much
Mm-hmm.
we appreciate your information, because
Mm-hmm.
every little bit, even if it gives them a point or two here and there, is going to make a difference. So I so greatly appreciate your time and efforts with this.
Thank you so much. So it means a lot that you like it, and all the students are finding it useful. And Hey guys, again, the bigger picture is like, I want you to use this brain, the awesome brain that you have, not just for the boards, okay? This is only the start of a lifelong career, right? I mean, Professor Leon, how many classes have you taken since you graduated?
Oh, so
So,
many. And I'm
right?
even using this as I'm preparing to teach embryo and histo. It's like, oh, I can't remember what's this and this.
Mhm,
So I'm using that in order
mhm.
so I can remember information to pass it along to the students.
Very nice. And
So
guys,
use it all the time, not just for exams.
Awesome, awesome. So, it's not just about the brain. The brain is confidence. The brain is you. And, I hope you can all feel this power, because in a way we forgot that we had this power already in us, because we have too much coming at us all at once, right? The
Yes.
news, we have textbooks, I mean, we read the equivalent of like 100 newspaper every day. Because back then you didn't have all this information. Back then, that's why people love gossip back then, because there was nothing to be excited about.
That was the information train.
Now we have
Yeah.
a lot. But I'm here to answer more questions, okay? And guys, if you're like, Claire, I wish you made a memory technique on this, I'm all ears. You tell me. That's how we know we can help you, okay? So you can email me anytime.
Get up!